Good afternoon. 1 year ago, yesterday, a tragic event shook our community. One of our most vulnerable residents went missing. And it's even more tragic today that we don't know the whereabouts of Relisha Rudd, a bright-eyed second grader who captured our hearts. And quite frankly, today, we all know that she should be doing the things that little girls do. Today, I'm with the Chief of Police, the Assistant Chief of Police, Peter Newsham, the Deputy Mayor for Human Services, Brenda Donald, and we're joined by our partners at the FBI, represented by Special Agent Timothy Gallagher. As we continue our search for Relisha, we must improve our efforts to protect our families that are in crisis and prevent tragedies. We remain committed in the District of Columbia in this administration to solving the problem of homelessness in the District of Columbia for families by 2018 and chronic homelessness in 2025. It's an ambitious but achievable goal, and that we believe, one, our community shares and that we must all reach. As the district continues to grow and thrive, we must utilize every possible tool to ensure that no resident, especially our vulnerable children, are left behind. We are developing a strategic plan to guide the district's efforts to end homelessness through the Interagency Council on Homelessness. The ICH was established by the Homeless Service Reform Act of 2005 for the purpose of facilitating interagency, cabinet-level leadership in planning, policy making, program development, provider monitoring, and budgeting for the continuum of care for homeless services. This plan will further cement a collaborative approach to identifying solutions among all of our agencies to improve transparency, accountability, and the quality of services. Deputy Mayor Brenda Donald has tasked her team to target areas to ensure that families at DC General are protected. Those areas include improved case management, improved security measures and facility monitoring, and improved training for shelter staff. Today, the chief, along with our law enforcement partners with the FBI, Metro Transit, Amtrak, and Montgomery County, are working to help us distribute flyers and beef up efforts to find our missing Relisha. The efforts by our law enforcement partners are greatly appreciated by us, and I thank them for assisting us in this search. We also want to thank all of the community members who keep Relisha at the top of our minds and are helping in these efforts as well. Now I want to turn over the podium to the chief, who will speak for MPD and facilitate your questions.
You know, so often the things that we do in law enforcement are not visible to the public, and in cases like Relisha's, now we're 1 year out from the last time we know that she was seen alive. Being able to get the press back involved and get the public reacquainted with the circumstances of this case is so very important. I get questions all the time about, is there any new leads, any new things that you're working on in the Relisha Rudd case. And while we can't talk about all the work that's going on behind the scenes that's not visible, what I can do is try and keep Relisha Rudd, in this case, visible in the news media. And for the work of our law enforcement partners who have been with us from day one and have offered overwhelming support in any way we need it, the FBI, again, Metro Transit, Montgomery County, during those exhaustive searches that we did, they're still with us today, a year later. And so I think it's important, along with the volunteer and advocacy groups as well. So I think the important thing is I don't have information that I can share with you today that's going to answer any new questions about the investigation, because that is still confidential, what we do know and where the investigation is going. We have continued to follow up on all leads and tips that come in. We will continue to do so if new leads and tips come in today, over the coming days, which we hope this press conference will do. Anybody who may have seen something that over this past year has not reported it or didn't think it was significant enough, but from hearing from us today now does think it's significant, to please pass that information on. Sometimes it's just one small piece of the puzzle that helps us get to the solution that we're looking for. And that solution that we're looking for now is finding Relisha. So again, we'll be out distributing flyers in multiple locations. Detectives and police officers and advocates and volunteers started this morning. They'll be going again throughout the day in multiple locations, and just looking for that shred of information that somebody may have that they have not passed along. We will take some questions. We'll do the best we can to answer questions, but I will start this off by saying this is a press conference to keep this case and the information about Relisha that we've shared in the public eye. This is not to share any new information about the case. So I'll take questions as they come.
Can you talk about do you have any persons of interest or any suspects in this case at all?
We are still working with the information that we have. We do not have any suspect other than Mr. Tatum at this point.
And what do you think is his motive to have taken her?
I'm not going to comment on that.
She has been missing for a year. Is she still considered missing, or is it suspected dead? At what point does that cross over?
She is still suspected missing. I mean, obviously our hope is that she is still alive. We don't know. We hope that she is. There are many missing children that are found months, weeks, years even later. So we're holding out hope that she is still alive.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about the flyer? What's on it? Is it any different from what was distributed in the past?
Very much the same. There is images that we're trying to get out there to restore, in everybody's mind what we were looking for. There were several still shot images of Relisha captured during the time we were backtracking, trying to see where she was last seen. And in fact, she was last seen that we are aware of in one of those images we released on the 1st of March last year in the 1600 block of Maryland Avenue. So we are trying to use the images that we have released already to try and refresh people's memory. Yes?
Have any of the tips that you received so far helped shape the direction of the investigation in any particular way?
I would say, over the course of this whole thing, a lot of information has come in. So I'd say that there's definitely been some useful information that has come in to help us along the way.
How cooperative has the family been in this case, and are any of them being looked at for being involved?
So I know there's been a lot of speculation over the past year about different caregivers and family members and everything else. I would just say that all the information that we have now and that we've covered over the past year that's come to our attention, all that information about anyone having association, care, or responsibility for Relisha has been turned over to prosecutors. So there's no information that has not been shared.
How has the investigation changed over the course of the year? Is there anything transformative in that time?
I'm not sure what you mean by transformative. The detectives and agents that have worked this case, much as it was during the weeks when we were looking for Relisha in the park, still very committed to trying to find her and doing everything they can. If tips and leads come in, they act very swiftly and aggressively on those tips.
I guess to rephrase, it's just what will change now, if anything, since so much time has passed?
I mean, our search efforts continue, and we go where the leads take us. So it really depends on what new information that we get in. And sometimes that new information comes from callers or people who have information they didn't feel was important before, and sometimes it comes from other places. But so really the effort is the same. It's just a matter of where the leads take us. So on the law enforcement side, I'll take one more question. Yes? Darcy.
Hi. Yeah, I'm just wondering, over the last year, has it been ruled out whether any caregivers who, quote unquote, failed her or, were responsible for her could face any sort of charges? And the follow-up to that is, would there be a point with her being missing that you would say, okay, now this is a death investigation, even without finding her? Would you cross that line into that at some point if she's not found?
So I'll answer your question the best I can, Darcy. all the information that we have uncovered in the course of this investigation about anybody who was in care or support or custody of Relisha, all that information has been turned over to the United States Attorney's Office. In terms of at a point that we would, change this from a missing person investigation to a death investigation, there would have to be some reason for us to do so. We have nothing at this point to tell us definitively that Relisha is not still alive and missing. So that's the way we're proceeding with this case at this point. All right, thank you. Yeah, one more.
Sorry, just want to make sure we clarify the language, because last March, after one of the searches in the parks, the term was used that this was now a recovery operation.
Sure.
And many articles thereafter presumed that.
Right. Well, I can't speak to how the articles changed over time, but we were operating on information on the days when we began that search in the park, and we made comment in that search in the park that what we were doing in that park, we were searching based on the information we had, what appeared to have been a recovery mission, because that search in that park was based on not looking for, Relisha being alive. We did not find Relisha in that park, so that specific search of that park was, in fact, if that information that led us there was based on what we thought was going to be a recovery mission if we had found her there. Right now, we don't have anything beyond what we've had back then a year ago to suggest that she is not alive and still missing. Thanks, everyone. All right, thank you.
Is that it? Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Can we ask a question about the homeless shelter, though? What recommendations have been put into place since the recommendation were issued last year, suggestions for the city?
Good afternoon. I'm Brenda Donald. I'm Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. And I do have some updates. As most of you know, a report was issued identifying a number of findings and recommendations that as a result of the investigation. And some of those were specific to the D.C. General Shelter as far as increased security, tightening up on the policies regarding fraternization, revising or revamping the accountability measures or the check-ins for family. Those things have been put in place and were put in place pretty quickly after in the last several months ago after Relisha went missing. We also have co-located staff at the shelter. That was also part of the findings and recommendations from the report were about agencies whose families come to attention of multiple agencies. They often have multiple needs. And we found that there were some gaps in the sharing of information and working on planning coordinated services for those agencies. So we co-located staff with Child and Family Services Agency, Department of Behavioral Health. We're working on a unified case planning process. And so I can say just about all of the recommendations have either been completed or are in some form of process.
Anything else, Deputy Mayor? Can you talk about the physical space itself and what has been done to improve it?
I'm going to ask Laura Zeilinger to come up here, the Director of the Department of Human Services, and may have a little bit more of an update in terms of D.C. General.
Sure. So I did not see the physical, to be clear, I was not here when this happened, did not see the physical space the way that it looked before, and when I've been out more recently since I've come onto the job as Director of Human Services. I've been out to DC General. The physical space is very clean. There is there is staff on every single floor. There is security 24/7. There are cameras. There is space for families to be, and there is recreational space. And we're doing absolutely everything we can to make it a space that is a dignified environment for families to be while they're experiencing homelessness and is a safe place for them to be. In terms of other physical questions to the space, I'm not sure if there is something that you're looking for beyond that.
Does the heat and air conditioning work now? There have always been cameras there, but the problem was before they weren't working. Are those working?
They are all working.
They're all working.
Yes. Heat and electric works, hot water works.
What about the condition of the water system? We got reports last year that residents were experiencing dirty water coming out of the spigots.
I'm not aware of any problems at this time with the water.
What about police involvement there? Have you had any incidents or arrests of staff members since Relisha's disappearance and or any other significant incidents there in which police have been involved?
No, not with staff at the shelter.
Question for Brenda. You mentioned training improvements. What type of training improvements have been made?
I'm sorry, training? Yeah, so there were increased training and accountabilities for all staff, not just at the shelters, but at all human service agencies and our contractors for mandated reporting around child abuse or neglect. There's been some training around domestic violence. We brought in an expert and convened a cross-agency session, and there will be some follow-up training there. That was another one of the recommendations about recognizing domestic violence. I think those primary categories.
So the training is not complete then?
Well, it's ongoing. There have been a first round of training, but then you have ongoing training, and of course for mandated reporter training, that is something that gets renewed every year, and as new staff come on, they're required to do it. And before, I think there hadn't been the checklists from each of the agencies to ensure that everybody was getting it, and that's in place now.
This question may be for either the chief or any of the FBI members. Was there anything at the time that you filed that missing person report that hindered this investigation? Are you telling parents to do anything different?
I'm not going to get into anything more specific to this case. I mean, obviously for us looking for children that go missing, the very first moment we can be alerted is critically important. Trying to piece things together after the fact always makes this much more difficult, which is typically what happens in adult cases. So for parents, and we actually have had a lot of inquiries from families immediately after Relisha Rudd. What can we do to make sure our children are safe? Can we make sure that you have DNA or fingerprints or anything of our children up front so that we can be proactive about making sure that if something happens and my child does go missing, that the police already have all that information. So we go out and do community events all the time to reassure parents that being proactive as a parent is the most important thing. And if a child goes missing, as quickly as possible, notification to police makes our job so much easier. And it happens with kids, and sometimes innocently enough, but we find them pretty quickly. So that's the best advice I can give you.
Okay, Mark,
Quick for the deputy mayor. One thing that was in the report last year was that certain mandatory reporters hadn't actually done their job and reported as they were supposed to. Has anybody been penalized? Was anybody fired from DC General? Were there any sanctions or repercussions for those mandatory reporters?
I don't know. I don't know if there were specific individuals who were cited as not having reported. And remember, the investigation or the review went back many years. Went back from the beginning of the time that Ms. Young and her family were known to various government agencies, and so I think that was more of observation that there were points along the way that perhaps someone could have made a report who didn't, but not necessarily tied to an individual.
Let me just say this, that we're grateful to the FBI for their involvement from day one, and also their assistance in making sure that there's a $25,000 reward available for information leading to the whereabouts of Relisha Rudd. Thank you.